Hey, Sen here. I'm a privacy and security researcher, and you're watching The Privacy Guides. So I spent all morning tirelessly working on an episode to show you guys how to run your own Bitcoin node using Ducker, this guide here. And the episode was over 40 minutes. And when I shot this, I have a problem with my Sony camera where sometimes there's like a frame rate issue. So I shot it in 4K into the memory card. And I noticed something when watching or while watching the final edit. I was showcasing this really amazing charge or charge, I don't know how to say this, aluminum enclosure for NVMe disks. That's really the only thing that you need to run your own node on Apple Silicon, a 2 terabyte external hard drive that has good heat dissipation and decent I/O performance. This is quite an amazing device. That's actually the data for my own node. So I was essentially showing this and saying how cool it is. And maybe you know what's wrong already. Let me know down there in the comments. What was wrong with that shot if recorded in spectacular high resolution 4K. I was essentially doxing my fingerprints. Wow, that was incredibly naive. I'm glad I didn't publish this. And that's why I cannot shoot in 4K, or at least record or capture this footage in 4K, because the way it looks now looks amazing, but it doesn't have the resolution necessary for people to be able to exfiltrate my fingerprints. Now, that's a great example of good operational security. One has to be mindful that our fingerprints can be used to unlock devices. For example, I still use an iPhone SE. I like how I can have a silicone band hide both cameras. Actually, one of you recommended this idea with an elastic band, and that's quite amazing. But I want to be able to unlock it with my fingerprint. The reason for this is it's extremely inconvenient to unlock it with a passphrase in the public. And when you're out there in the public, another good OPSEC thing that I really don't see quite often in conferences is if you're typing your passwords at a conference or in a mall, there's a bazillion cameras capturing every angle. So you're literally doxing your own password. And that's something that freaks me out. And that's why I use biometrics to unlock my phone. But Proton Mail has a really cool feature where when you unlock Proton Mail, if you open up the app, it will ask you for a PIN. That's amazing. I'm really sad that Signal doesn't have a feature like this. So the whole idea is you need your biometrics to get into the phone and do like basic stuff. But if you need to do something sensitive, you also need a PIN in the context of Proton Mail, even if it's pretty short. What's cool with a PIN, you can hide it and kind of move about when you're typing it and not dox it in public. And the PIN is not your passphrase. So it's just an additional measure, to mitigate line of sight attacks. In the context of macOS, there's a much more sophisticated thing that one can do, and I actually published a whole episode that's in the Privacy Guides archive a while back on how to protect Mac computers from cold boot attacks. And the whole idea is, or at least was back then, to have your computer deep sleep and empty all of its RAM to the internal SSD that is, I hope, full disk encrypted using FileVault. For everyone watching, it is definitely on my computers. And it does that and then releases power from the RAM so no one can do a cold boot attack on the RAM. Obviously, that's a very sophisticated attack. But a side benefit from this is that when you wake the computer, it also destroys the FileVault keys on standby. And that means that when your computer wakes up, you need to enter your passphrase. That means if someone whacks you on the head and then uses your body to unlock the computer, they cannot have access to stuff on said computer. That's also why I use, and I'll hide my other keys, but I use a YubiKey to store my PGP identity. And that's how I sign Superback releases, for example. And to do so, I need to enter a PIN as well. So it's this idea of the computer needs me to be conscious to unlock it. And the same applies to my security keys or hardware wallets, for example. So yeah, now something really curious that I discovered when working on this Bitcoin node Ducker project is when my Mac would sleep after having configured this stuff to protect myself from cold boot attacks or people using my body to unlock my device, what I discovered is when Mac sleeps, it forcefully ejects all external volumes, and that ejected the data set that my Bitcoin node was creating, and it corrupted the Bitcoin data set and forced me to redo the whole initial block download, which, if you follow this guide on passive cooled Macs, takes about 3 days. So I was like, oh my God, don't tell me I have to do this thing all over again. And I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending a guide like this to you guys if that might happen to you. So I went down a few levels in the rabbit hole and created a new command line utility for macOS called Wakeful. Wakeful is similar to Caffeinate, for those of you who know. It's a way to tell your Mac to not go to sleep if you want to run long workloads on it, such as the Bitcoin IBD. You can give it a -D command line argument that will also prevent the display from going to sleep. And that was all great for making sure that IBD would, go through the whole night. But I also wanted a way to hook when the user clicks sleep. Is it possible to hook to that event and tell the Mac OS, operating system, yo, chill, let me finish that workload or gracefully exit, the whole Docker Compose environment. And that way, making sure that any data that's in the RAM has time to be written to the hard drive, making sure you don't corrupt the Bitcoin data set, which then requires a hell of an amount of work to recover from. So Wakeful is an amazing alternative to Caffeinate. I'll disclose that I am not the most spectacular Swift developer. If you are, I would love to talk to you. I need help. I'm trying to build a little collective of people that can help me work on these open source projects. So please reach out on sunknutson.com/contact. I'll put that, in the description as well. So I would love to talk to you guys if you're amazing Swift developers. So that's all I have for you today. I mean, I was really hoping to publish this guide. The episode was like 42 minutes long. It had a whole bunch of what I find, are amazing insights on how computers work, how security models work. I'll eventually get to publishing this, but not today. So I'll see you in the next one. Hit subscribe. Have an amazing day. Bye.